energy bills are rising at a historic rate, and there's no end in sight. Talk to enough people and you'll soon realize nearly everyone's shocked at their recent electricity bills. Some studies reveal energy costs have skyrocketed by as high as 60% in as little as 2 years. That's why tens of thousands are installing this magical little device from SavePowerBills.com to help slash their energy bills. This sophisticated gadget stabilizes electrical currents, reduces dirty electricity, and helps protect your appliances and electronics. Simply plug it into your home's wall outlet to help lower energy consumption and ultimately help reduce your power bills every month. Countless 5-star reviews back up the notion that this device is one of the most efficient ways to save money while beating the greedy power companies. But there's more. If you order now, you'll also receive 65% off, fast shipping within the USA, hassle-free returns, and last but not least, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee. Just go to SavePowerBills.com to take advantage of this limited time deal before they sell out. Once again, that's SavePowerBills.com.
So Somali fraud is obviously one of the biggest stories across the United States of America at this moment in time, and this is due in large part to YouTuber Nick Shirley posting a 43-minute video going to various daycare centers in the state of Minnesota, mostly in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, to document these centers not actually having children in them, plus other signs that have been uncovered by the local news media that are indicative of scams in order to defraud the taxpayer that, again, are familiar to local news watchers of Fox 9 Minneapolis, but may not be familiar to the nation as a whole. And of course, there's been a ton of backlash against Nick Shirley, against anybody who's pointing out that this is in fact a thing. The theft is at a scale that's absolutely ridiculous. And yes, it appears, at least in the state of Minnesota, that there's a particular ethnic group that is driving most of the fraud. And in fact, about 90% of the convictions, most of them federal, have been of people in the Somali ethnic groups. That's not to say that there aren't other people involved. People are now saying, oh, why isn't MAGA telling you about the white lady that was involved in Feeding Our Future? And yeah, there was a white lady or two involved in the Feeding Our Future fraud. However, most of the defendants, and by the way, the people who were trying to conduct the bribes, were in fact Somali. And by the way that they were able to continue payments in the largest COVID fraud yet to be discovered in this nation after the Minnesota Department of Education discovered this fraud because they were using random name generators for the kids that they were allegedly feeding, was that they sued the Department of Education based on racial discrimination, claiming that they were just being anti-Somali by cutting off payments. So they got millions upon millions of more dollars based on the Somali identity, and all the defense that we're seeing is again based on the Somali identity. Whatever ethnic group that white woman is from is not having the mayor go to one of those restaurants and eat their food to show how wonderful they are, but the mayor did go to a Somali restaurant to show how amazing the Somali fraudsters are at cooking you up some food, even though one of their frauds was quite literally them not cooking up some food. But of course, the Quality Learing Center has been the epicenter, at least in terms of attention, of this particular Shirley video, and of course of people investigating this further, because it's so absurd that this place spelled learning incorrectly in their name. Nobody was talking about it, despite the fact that local news media had visited the Learing Center at the beginning of 2025, found the same things that Nick Shirley found.
I started by visiting Quality Learning Center Daycare.
So it is that 14B.
Which sits right in the heart of downtown Minneapolis. Between 2019 and 2023, the Minnesota Department of Human Services found 95 violations at this location. They range from failure to keep hazardous items away from children to no records for 16 children, which include things like immunizations, emergency contacts, and medical needs. So state investigators placed Quality Learning Center on a conditional license in 2022. I went to the daycare's location several times, and only once did I see people there.
Oh, that's your daycare.
But I did not see any children.
So there are 80 kids in there?
No.
After school? Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
DHS declined an interview, but in a statement acknowledged Quality Learning Center was put on a conditional license because of its poor safety record. But it still received nearly $8 million in taxpayers' money since 2019.
And of course, the Learing Center has decided post Nick Shirley that they're going to fight back, claim that they're open, even though, again, you have the state of Minnesota saying they're closed. You have all these different seemingly fake demonstrations of people dropping off children at this location, only to be followed followed up with a recent report that it is in fact now closed as of January 6, 2026, according to the Minnesota government, again, on their website. And this is what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay? Open up!
How do you have ice here, ma'am? I'm literally a YouTuber.
Don't open up!
Ma'am, what do you think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
Don't open up! We have ice!
And what do you think about this place being licensed for 99 children
Don't open up!
and getting $4 million
Don't
over
open
the
up! It's ice!
$4 million in the last 2 years?
Go away!
What do you think about that? Are you in
Go
favor?
away!
Are you in favor of that?
Go away!
You know where
You're
the-
not welcome here! Shame on you!
Are you in favor of $1.9 million going illegally,
Don't open up!
fraudulently to this business that has Quality Learning Center but can't even spell learning right on the door?
Don't open up!
Ma'am, we are not ICE.
I don't care who you are, you don't belong here.
So that's the clip from the Nick Shirley video where he is visiting the Quality Learing Center, and he, of course, is trying to see if this is a legitimate business while simultaneously being harassed by a white woman who is trying to warn people that there's actually ICE officials that are out there in order to prevent them from opening up the door. But throughout the course of this video that Nick Shirley shot, nobody answers the door, and there's been a lot of different excuses for why this daycare center is not in fact open. And by the way, those excuses immediately from the jump conflicted from one another. So first and foremost, one of the excuses that we heard was from Tika Brown, who works in Minnesota state government, and she made the case that the Quality Learing Center actually closed its doors as a business for good just a couple of days prior to Nick Shirley showing up to this location. So there was no fraud there at all whatsoever. The business was closed. It's just Nick Shirley is a big fat liar, and we gotta discredit him in any possible way.
So I won't go into any detail about whether or not any of these have any open investigations. I will share that our team was notified that Quality Learning Center closed just over a week ago. And I believe the details that were given at that time were around space concerns. And that's what was shared.
But the funny thing is that the Minnesota state government, which by the way has been accused by federal prosecutors, not just in the Trump administration, but in the Biden administration, of essentially looking the other way, and by the way, accused of looking the other way on Somali fraud by internal whistleblowers, actually should have coordinated better with the Somalis, because guess what? Same day that we were told that the reason Nick Shirley didn't find no kids at that location was because the business was permanently closed, we actually had a manager at the Quality Learing Center out front of the sign, still misspelled at the time that he decided to do this little media stunt, saying, no, we were always open. Nick Shirley's a bad liar, and I don't see him here now trying to confront us because children are leering very good here.
As you can see, we're open Mondays through Thursdays, 2 to 10 p.m. He was here earlier. I don't see him right now. So it's like, are you trying to record that we're doing fraud, or are you trying to put the Somali name and the fraud in the same sentence? That's what really hurt us the last couple of days. We're open. We've been open. We haven't closed. We've been open for eight and a half years now. We haven't closed once during that period. So I want to touch on that first. The second thing is, which is kind of laughable, is the sign. We messed up the sign. We paid somebody to do our sign. He incorrectly did it. We're having him work on it. We paid him to correct the sign. He said it'll be done by this week. So by the end of this week, our sign will be fine.
Now, by the way, I also want to point out that the Quality Learing Center is located at Nicollet Avenue. Nicollet Avenue is spelled with 2 L's, and you could actually see on the door of the Learing Center, it is spelled incorrectly there. So these people not only spelled the learning wrong in their supposedly Quality Learning Center, but they also spelled the street address wrong of the location that they're at. Again, in an absurdity stacked on top of an absurdity. In addition to that, on their website, they spelled children wrong. Now look, typos happen, we all understand that, but it's a little bit of a red flag that parents are allegedly dropping their children's off at this particular location in order for them to learn in a quality way, and the place can't even spell the address correctly, can't even spell the word learning correctly, and by the way, this was basically unnoticed by state investigators, or at least it was assumed to be unnoticed by state investigators, as they did not shut this place down for the long longest time. But what we end up finding out when we look into the reports on the Learing Center is that state investigators were red flagging this upon visits at these locations. They actually put the license of this location on probation, and part of the reason why was insufficient documentation of the children, and this presented in a number of ways. First and foremost, we did not have proper medical records associated with the children, which is something that you need in order to operate a daycare center in the state of Minnesota. We also didn't have proper vaccination records, and in addition,
Energy bills are rising at a historic rate, and there's no end in sight. That's why tens of thousands are using this amazing little device from SavePowerBills.com. It's a small but smart gadget that stabilizes electrical currents, reduces dirty electricity, and helps protect your electronics. Just plug it into your home's wall outlet to help lower energy consumption and ultimately help reduce your power bills every month. Order now to get 65% off plus many free bonuses before they sell out by going to SavePowerBills.com. That's SavePowerBills.com. Order now.
To that, we had children with the wrong age that were not suited for the program present at the location, and a bunch of other things that would indicate that maybe, just maybe, they're not taking care to make sure that they have the children there. What they're trying to do is overbill the state if it even functions, even partially, as a legitimate business for children that are not there, that are not present. And of course, as we learned from a 2015 report on these daycare centers, one of the ways that they're able to avoid scrutiny is by blacking out their windows, and that is a technique in order to make sure people who are surveilling them don't discover that there are no children at these particular locations, and that they can't prove that they're billing for hours where they're not actually there, because again, you can't see any light through the window because they're blacked out. Don't believe me? Here's the MyFox 9 report, Minneapolis-St. Paul, from the year 2015, where a seasoned welfare investigator ends up pointing this out to the local news media.
The daycares that I'm going to be showing you from this point on all bill over $100,000 a month.
Palicki says before he was fired, he was tracking a similar scheme in Hennepin County involving multiple child care centers. He offered to take us on a driving tour to show what he'd uncovered.
What does this one say on the door?
7 a.m. to 6 p.m. There are no lights on.
This building is housing its third daycare center in as many years.
They just got a new license.
The two previous daycares had their public subsidies stopped by the county because of billing irregularities.
Hour after hour, I would sit here and document nothing.
Palicki discovered one center was charging the county for kids who were never dropped off.
See those double doors over there?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a daycare center. You wouldn't know it from this.
He took us to center after center that had no sign outside to indicate it was a daycare. When we knocked on the doors during posted business hours, no one answered.
If you're driving down the street, would you even know this was a daycare center?
Probably not.
Yet each location has a state license to operate,
But there's nobody in there right now.
and is eligible to collect child care subsidies to serve low-income families.
I mean, that's blacked out up there, so you can't even tell when the lights are on or off.
Exactly.
Why would they do that?
So you can't prove when they're working and when they're not. You could be billing till 11 o'clock at night, but they gone home, 6 hours earlier.
Each of the centers he took us to had their windows mysteriously covered.
Why block them off? What are you afraid of?
Now, the reason 2015 is also a crucial year is that one of the daycare centers that was actually busted for doing fraudulent billing practices, overbilling the taxpayer for children that were not present, was actually a daycare center located at the very same spot that Quality Learing Center is at. But as we see time and time again, immediately after one of these locations is shut down, a new license appears for a new business that is in fact the same business at the same location, and then the business continues again serving the same Somali community allegedly. And guess what? Quality Learing Center is one of these locations. The previous daycare center right there was raided in 2015, and again next day they open up a new daycare center at the same location under a different license, and then the violations end up starting up again. Now, of course, there have been subsequent efforts to debunk Nick Shirley's reporting, including CNN saying that they called all 10 of the daycare centers that Nick Shirley visited after they questioned him viciously and, of course, called him a MAGA journalist. But even CNN had to admit at the end of their segment that they only had one business out of the 10 answer their call, but they did assure CNN that they were, in fact, a legitimate business.
We're from CNN. Can we talk to you? This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley. Back at a daycare in Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video.
People are going to say this is a left or right issue, but no, fraud is fraud. And so I'm not out here trying to put a twist on things.
Shirley's viral video, released over the weekend, in which he says he's uncovering tens of millions of dollars in fraud at Minneapolis daycares run by the Somali community, was retweeted by Elon Musk and Vice President J.D. Vance. In the video, Shirley tries to open locked doors and talk to people at various daycares he claims are frauds.
How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
Now, another attempted debunking of Shirley's reporting comes from the Star Tribune. And what's funny about this is that Steve Groves, the guy in charge of the Star Tribune, their CEO, was somebody who worked for Tim Walz's administration from 2019 to 2023. In fact, this is a guy who oversaw COVID funds and was considered a liaison between the government and between businesses. So this is a guy who very likely, bare minimum, didn't notice the Feeding Our Future fraud, but maybe was complicit in said fraud in that position that is now in the Star Tribune trying to debunk these allegations from Nick Shirley. But even with all those incentives, according to the Star Tribune, they found children only at 4 of the 10 sites that were featured in Shirley's video. And by the way, there's no accounting for the number of children there, because if you're billing for 40 and you have less than a dozen, like the CBS Minnesota affiliate ended up discovering, that does not necessarily mean that you're debunking fraud.
Is this daycare committing fraud?
No, we're not committing fraud.
Hassan showed us security footage from the same day Shirley was here. According to the timestamps in the videos, this woman takes a young child into the center at around 9 a.m. that day, about 3 hours before Shirley arrives at the door closer to the street. Within the hour after Shirley leaves, a woman arrives at the other door with a stroller. A larger family heads inside a few hours later. Tuesday afternoon, WCCO found at least a dozen children at ABC Learning Center, which is licensed with the state. Records show Minnesota officials last visited the daycare in November, noting some corrected and ongoing violations related to day-to-day operations, but no record of fraud.
But back to the Learing Center for just a second, because there was a lot of confusion when you had people from the Minnesota state government saying that this place was closed as a way to discredit Nick Shirley, only for the people at the Learing Center to say, no, we're actually open, we've never been closed. And adding to that confusion is this YouTuber who's like a YouTube prankster, not a serious person in any way, shape, or form, called Loaf or Lofi, not exactly sure, posting on January 5th that he's going to release a video showing that there was many children's present at the Learing Center when he visited, and then he adds in a little teaser video of him talking to the very same person who contradicted the person in Minnesota state government who said that they were closed, making the case that there's so many children's here and the fraud allegations, as the super mayor would call them,
false allegations and not facts,
are just false. And people have made fun of this guy because, again, he coordinated with the Learing Center to do this appearance. They could obviously stage it. Everything looks freshly painted and completely untouched on the inside. He says that there's so many children's there.
Just because of what's going on. And even my mom is telling them right now, a good 3+ families left us.
Well, we can shoot our hours.
Exactly. It's our business. But the reason why we do 2 to 10 is I can get the entire family of kids instead of 1 or...
But he posted these images and these teasers on January 5th for an upcoming video, one day before the Learing Center was declared closed officially, according to the Minnesota website that covers these matters. So apparently they're a legitimate business loaded up with children's, like that lady said. She drops her children's off here from 2 to 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, the official designated business hours of the business.
Another facility highlighted in the YouTube video was Quality Learning Center. The people operating it would not speak with us, but we did talk to a mother dropping off her kids.
I take my kids here, 2 o'clock to 10. Yeah, there's a lot of kids inside.
This YouTuber found many children's there, but one day later, and again a week later from that lady in the car, the business is completely shut down because something's off about it, and even the state of Minnesota can't keep the Learing Center running because it appears that the violations and the lies and deception is just too obvious. So yeah, this is the latest update in the Somali fraud that is going on in the state of Minnesota. The Learing Center once again has contradictory story messaging about how they're definitely open. They have so many children's there. They're definitely legitimate, but also state agencies once again are saying they're closed. So I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute madness of the Somali fraud story. Till next time.